Jake Morrison sat at his desk in the human embassy, staring at another boring trade report. Numbers and shipping routes filled his screen. He had been doing this job for 3 years now, and most days felt exactly the same. The embassy was located on Central Station, a massive structure that floated in space and served as the home of the Galactic Council. 42 different alien species had representatives here, and humans were among the newest members. It was the year 2547. Humans had joined the Galactic Council exactly 100 years ago, back in 2447 when alien ships first appeared over Earth. Jake remembered learning about it in school. The aliens had been friendly and welcoming. They invited humans to join their community of peaceful species. Earth had agreed quickly, eager to learn about the galaxy and trade with other worlds. Jake stretched in his chair and looked out the window. Outside, he could see alien ships coming and going from the station. Some were small shuttles, others were huge cargo vessels. The station itself was so large that it had its own weather system inside. Different species needed different environments, so the station was divided into hundreds of sections. His computer beeped. An emergency message flashed across the screen. All ambassadors were ordered to report to the council chambers immediately. Jake stood up quickly. Emergency sessions were rare. Something serious must have happened. He walked through the corridors toward the main chamber. Other species were heading the same direction. He saw a trell, a species that looked like walking trees with glowing bark. A group of Ythran floated past him, their bodies made of something that looked like living crystal. Everyone seemed worried. The council chamber was huge, with seats arranged in a circle so every species could see each other. Jake found Ambassador Laura Bennett already in her seat. She was a tall woman with gray hair, and she had been Earth's main representative for 10 years. Jake took his place behind her as her aide. High Chancellor Varix entered the chamber, and everyone fell silent. Varix belonged to the krill species, insectoid beings that stood over 8 feet tall. His 4 arms moved with nervous energy as he approached the center platform. Jake had never seen the Chancellor look scared before, but today fear was clear on his face. "The Devourers have returned," Varix said. His voice was translated into every language automatically by the chamber's systems. The room erupted in panic. Species began shouting in languages Jake did not understand. Some representatives stood up from their seats. Others made sounds of distress. Laura Bennett remained calm, but Jake saw her hands grip the armrests of her chair tightly. Jake knew about the Devourers from history files. They were an ancient race of machines that consumed everything in their path. Entire star systems had been destroyed by them. The Council had fought them 3,000 years ago and barely won. After that war, the Devourers had vanished into deep space. Everyone hoped they were gone forever. "How many ships?" someone asked from across the chamber. "Our scouts report over 10,000 vessels," Varix replied. "They emerged from dark space 2 weeks ago. They are moving toward our core worlds. We sent our fleets to stop them at the threshold systems." "What happened?" Laura Bennett asked. Varix's mandibles clicked together, a sign of great stress in his species. "We are losing. The Devourer fleet is destroying our ships faster than we can replace them. In 2 weeks, 70% of our military will be gone. After that, nothing will stop them from reaching our homeworlds." The chamber fell silent. Jake felt his heart pounding. He knew what was coming next. Varix turned to face the human section. His large compound eyes focused on Laura Bennett. "We need help, all of you. Every species must contribute whatever forces they have." He paused. "Even humanity." Laura Bennett stood up slowly. "Chancellor, you know our position. Humans are a peaceful species. We have a small defense force to protect our own worlds. But we are not a military power." "We know," Varix said, "but we need every ship, every soldier, please." Jake had never heard an alien leader beg before. The desperation in Varex's voice was clear. The council was facing extinction, and they were asking everyone for help, even species like humans who had always claimed to be peaceful. Laura Bennett looked around the chamber. Every species representative was watching her. Some looked hopeful, others looked doubtful. Humans had always been quiet members of the council. They traded, they shared some technology, but they never involved themselves in military matters. "Ambassador Bennett," Varex said, his voice softer now, "please, we would not ask if we had any other choice." Laura Bennett took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady. "Chancellor Varex, members of the council, I must ask you a question before humanity responds. Are you absolutely certain you want us to intervene in this war? Are you sure you want to see what humans can do when we fight?" The question hung in the air. Jake understood what she was really asking. She was giving them a warning, a chance to reconsider. Varex spread all four of his arms wide. "Ambassador, we are facing the end of everything we have built. Yes, we want your help. We need your help. Whatever you can provide, we will accept with gratitude." Laura Bennett looked at the other council members. One by one, they nodded or made gestures of agreement in their own ways. The vote was unanimous. They wanted humanity to join the war. "Very well," Laura Bennett said. She pulled out a secure communication device from her jacket. "Please excuse me for one moment." She pressed several buttons and held the device to her ear. The chamber watched in silence. Jake could barely hear her words, but he caught some of them. "Madam President, the council has made their request. Yes, I explained the implications. They insist. The situation is critical." She paused, listening. "Understood. I will inform them." Laura Bennett put the device away and looked up at High Chancellor Varex. When she spoke, her words were simple, but they carried enormous weight. "The President of Earth has authorized military intervention. Humanity will help the Council fight the Devourers. Our fleet will deploy within 72 hours. Several Council members looked relieved. Others looked confused. The human fleet? What fleet? Humans had always claimed they barely had any warships. Varex bowed his head in gratitude. "Thank you, Ambassador Bennett. On behalf of the entire Council, thank you. How many ships can Earth send?" Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, something ancient stirred to life. Warning lights began flashing in an underwater facility that had been dark for decades. Computer systems activated one by one. In the control room, automated messages went out across secret channels that had been silent since they were built. Admiral Ryan Cross received the alert on his personal device while eating breakfast in his home in Colorado. He had been waiting for this message for 30 years. Part of him had hoped it would never come. Another part of him knew it was inevitable. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and humanity had always understood that. He pressed his thumb against the device to confirm his identity. The screen flashed green. "Sentinel protocol activated," it read. "Report to command immediately." 20 minutes later, Ryan was descending in an elevator that went down 5 miles beneath the surface. The facility had been built in secret over 50 years ago, carved out of solid rock. Only a few thousand people in the entire world knew it existed. It was the command center for humanity's real military, the one that no alien species knew about. The elevator doors opened. Ryan stepped into a massive control room filled with screens and personnel already at their stations. General Steve Parker was waiting for him. Steve was older than Ryan, with white hair and a face marked by years of planning for a war that might never happen. "The Council asked for our help," Steve said without greeting. "President Carter has given the authorization. We are going to war." Ryan nodded slowly. "How bad is it?" "The Devourers are destroying the Council fleets faster than projected. If we do not intervene, the Council will fall within a month. After that, they will come for Earth." "Then we wake up everything," Ryan said. Steve handed him a tablet. On it was a list of military assets that would make any alien species run in terror. Ships that had been hidden for a century, weapons that broke the known laws of physics. Soldiers trained since childhood for a war against an enemy most people thought was just history. All of it? Steve asked. All of it, Ryan confirmed. Across the solar system, the awakening began. Under the ice sheets of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, massive doors opened for the first time in decades. Water rushed in, but it did not matter. The ships inside were designed to operate in any environment. Engines came online with a deep hum that shook the ice above. One by one, sleek warships emerged from their hidden berths and rose toward the surface. Ben Hayes stood on the bridge of the Liberty as his ship came to life around him. He had been the captain of this vessel for 5 years, but it had been docked in its secret base under the Pacific for all that time. His crew had trained constantly, running simulations and drills, but they had never actually taken the ship into combat. The Liberty was a battleship, 1,500 meters long and armed with weapons that the Galactic Council did not know existed. Plasma cannons lined its hull. Missile bays held quantum torpedoes that could tear holes in space itself. Its shields were based on technology that humans had developed by studying artifacts they found on Mars 20 years ago, artifacts they never told the Council about. "All systems are green," reported Nina Foster, his first officer. She was younger than Ben, only 30 years old, but she had graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy. Like everyone on this ship, she had volunteered for a job that might never be needed. Now that need had arrived. "Take us to the surface," Ben ordered. The Liberty rose through the water. On the surface, satellites detected the massive disturbance but sent no alarms. They were programmed to ignore this activity. The ship broke through the waves, water streaming off its angular black hull. Ben watched through the view screen as his vessel climbed toward the sky, its engines pushing it up through the atmosphere and into space. "Navigation! Set course for Rally Point Omega," Ben said. "We are going to meet the fleet." On the moon, in a facility hidden inside a crater on the far side, Colonel Amy Wu supervised the launch of something that would terrify anyone who saw it. The hangar doors opened, revealing the night sky above. Inside the hangar stood machines that looked like metal giants. They were called Titans, and each one stood 200 meters tall. They were piloted by humans who connected their minds directly to the machine through neural links. Amy had been training as a Titan pilot since she was 18 years old. She was now 40, and she was one of the best pilots humanity had ever produced. Her Titan was designated Omega-1. It stood in the center of the hangar, a massive humanoid machine covered in armor plating and bristling with weapons. Rocket pods on its shoulders could destroy aircraft. Plasma cannons mounted on its arms could cut through ship hulls, and its hands could grip and tear apart structures that were designed to withstand meteor impacts. Amy climbed into the pilot chamber located in the chest of the machine. She strapped herself into the command seat and placed the neural connector against the back of her neck. The connection activated, and suddenly she could feel the Titan as if it were her own body. Every sensor became her eyes. Every weapon system responded to her thoughts. "Omega-1 ready for launch," she reported. Around her, 19 other Titans activated. They were her squadron, pilots she had trained with for years. Together, they would be deployed directly onto enemy ships, where they would fight from the inside and tear those ships apart piece by piece. "All Titans launch sequence initiated," came the command from base control. Amy engaged her thrusters. The Titan lifted off the ground, its weight tremendous, but its engines powerful enough to overcome gravity. She flew up through the open hangar doors and into space, 19 others following behind her. They formed up in a precise formation and began the journey to Rally Point Omega. At Rally Point Omega, beyond Pluto's orbit in the darkness of deep space, the human fleet was assembling. It was the largest gathering of warships Earth had ever produced, and no alien species had any idea it existed. 300 capital ships arrived from their hidden bases, Titan-class dreadnoughts, each 15 kilometers long, emerged from the asteroid belt where they had been disguised as mining stations. Wraith-class destroyers materialized from empty space where their stealth fields had hidden them for decades. Cruisers, frigates, assault carriers, and support vessels took their positions in the formation. 5,000 smaller ships joined them, fighters, bombers, transports, and reconnaissance craft. Every single one was armed and ready for combat. The crews totaled over 2 million personnel, all of whom had trained in secret, all of whom had prepared for a war that might never come. Admiral Ryan Cross stood on the bridge of the Valor, his flagship. It was one of the Titan-class dreadnoughts, a vessel so large that it had its own internal gravity and could carry 10,000 crew members. From here, he would command the entire operation. "Fleet status?" he asked. "All ships have reported in," answered Commander Greg Torres, his tactical officer. "We are at full readiness. Weapons charged, shields at maximum. We are ready to jump on your command." Ryan looked at the display showing the assembled fleet. He had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. Humanity had built this fleet in secret because they understood something the peaceful species of the Council did not. Peace was not the natural state of the universe. Peace had to be defended, and sometimes defense required overwhelming force. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," Ryan ordered. "Tell them we are coming. Tell them to hold their position at the threshold systems for 72 more hours. After that, they will see what humanity can do." The message was sent through secure channels. Back on Central Station, Ambassador Laura Bennett received it and smiled. She forwarded it to High Chancellor Varix and the Council members. The human fleet emerged from their jump drives at the edge of the threshold systems. What they saw was chaos. The Council's defensive line was collapsing. Alien warships burned in the darkness of space. Debris fields spread across millions of kilometers. And everywhere, the Devourers pressed their attack. Admiral Ryan Cross studied the tactical display on his command screen. The enemy fleet was even larger than intelligence reports suggested. Thousands of Devourer ships moved in precise formations, their black hulls reflecting no light. Behind them, massive harvester vessels were already beginning to consume the outer planets, breaking them down into raw materials to build more machines. "How long do the Council forces have?" Ryan asked. Commander Greg Torres checked his instruments. "At current loss rates, 6 hours, maybe less. Their shields are failing. Their weapons are not effective against Devourer armor." Ryan made his decision quickly. There was no time for careful planning or coordination with the Council fleet. "All ships, Battle Formation Alpha, we are going straight through their line. Target the command ships in the center of their formation. Wraith squadrons, you go first. Hit them before they know we are here." 50 Wraith-class destroyers broke away from the main fleet. These ships were humanity's ghost weapons. Their stealth technology bent light and sensor waves around them, making them completely invisible. They had been designed specifically for first strike missions. The Wraith destroyers moved silently toward the Devourer fleet. The enemy had no idea they were coming. Their sensors showed nothing but empty space. The Council ships were too busy fighting for survival to notice the new arrivals. Captain Lisa Martinez commanded the Wraith destroyer Shadow Knife. She watched her target on the screen, a Devourer command cruiser 3 kilometers long. It was coordinating attacks on a group of Council frigates. In 30 seconds, it would be destroyed. "Weapons ready," reported her tactical officer. "Fire everything," Lisa ordered. The stealth field dropped. Suddenly, 50 destroyers appeared in the middle of the Devourer formation. Quantum torpedoes launched from every ship. The torpedoes were not normal explosives. When they hit their targets, they created miniature black holes that lasted for only a fraction of a second, but that was enough. The black holes consumed matter faster than any chemical explosion could. The Devourer command cruiser that Lisa targeted simply disappeared. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing but empty space where it had been. Around her, 49 other enemy ships met the same fate. The Devourer fleet reacted instantly. Their weapons turned toward the Wraith destroyers. Energy beams and projectiles filled space, but the human ships were already moving, their engines pushing them at speeds the Council ships could never match. They danced through the enemy fire, their shields absorbing what hits did connect. "All ships advance," Admiral Ryan Cross ordered from the Valor. The main human fleet jumped forward, covering the distance in seconds. The Titan-class dreadnoughts led the charge, their massive hulls absorbing enemy fire that would have destroyed smaller vessels. Behind them came cruisers and frigates, spreading out to engage targets across the battlefield. Ben Hayes guided the Liberty into the fight. His ship shook as Devourer weapons struck the shields, but the shields held. The technology humanity had developed was working exactly as designed. The shields rotated their frequency thousands of times per second, making it nearly impossible for the Devourers to adapt to them. "Target the Harvester on the left," Ben ordered. "Plasma lance batteries, full power." The Liberty's main weapons fired. 6 beams of superheated plasma crossed the distance to the target in less than a second. They struck the Harvester ship, cutting through its armor like it was paper. The beams carved deep into the vessel's hull, destroying critical systems. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface. "Target destroyed," Nina Foster reported. "Acquiring new target." Across the battlefield, the human fleet was tearing through the Devourer formation. The aliens had fought the Council for thousands of years. They had adapted to every weapon the Council used. They knew how to counter every tactic the peaceful species employed. But they had never encountered humans before. Every weapon was new. Every tactic was unknown. And the ferocity of the human attack was unlike anything in their programming. High Chancellor Varix watched from his command ship, unable to believe what he was seeing. The human fleet was not just fighting the Devourers, they were winning. Ships that had seemed unstoppable an hour ago were being destroyed by the dozens. The tide of battle was shifting. "Who are these humans?" asked his tactical advisor, a Solari named Kor. Varix had no answer. He had known humans for 100 years. They had always seemed peaceful, focused on trade and exploration. Where had this fleet come from? How long had they hidden it? The real shock came when the Titans deployed. Colonel Amy Wu led her squadron directly toward one of the massive Harvester ships. These vessels were 50 kilometers long, designed to break down entire planets. They were protected by thick armor and powerful shields. Normal weapons could barely scratch them. But Titans were not normal weapons. "All units, target lock acquired," Amy transmitted to her squadron. "Execute boarding maneuver." 20 Titans fired their thrusters at full power. They crossed the distance to the Harvester in less than a minute. Point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but the Titan's armor was too strong. The automated weapons could not stop them. Amy's Titan, Omega-1, slammed into the Harvester's hull. The impact would have killed a normal human instantly, but Amy was neurally linked to her machine. She felt the impact as a distant sensation, filtered through the Titan's systems. Her hands gripped the hull, and she activated the molecular saw built into the Titan's right arm. The saw cut through the hull like butter. In seconds, she had carved an opening large enough for her Titan to enter. She pushed through into the interior of the ship. Behind her, 19 other Titans did the same at different points along the hull. Inside the Harvester, the environment was hostile. No air, extreme temperatures, and automated defense systems everywhere. None of it mattered to the Titans. They were designed to operate in any conditions. Amy moved through the corridors, her Titan's feet crushing machinery beneath its weight. Defense drones swarmed toward her. She raised her left arm and fired the plasma cannon. The drones disappeared in bursts of superheated gas. "Heading toward the power core," she reported. "Resistance is heavy but manageable." The other Titans spread throughout the ship, destroying everything in their path. They tore through bulkheads with their hands. They fired rockets at critical systems. The Harvester was enormous, but it had never been designed to defend against enemies inside its own hull. Amy reached the power core after 15 minutes of fighting. It was a massive sphere of energy, contained by magnetic fields and surrounded by coolant systems. She pulled out the Singularity Charge from her Titan's equipment pack. The charge was a human weapon that the Council had never seen. When activated, it created a small but extremely powerful gravitational field that would tear apart anything near it. "Singularity Charge armed," Amy reported. "All Titans, evacuate now." She set the timer for 3 minutes and turned around. Her Titan ran back through the path of destruction she had created. Behind her, the other Titans were also evacuating, moving toward the holes they had cut in the hull. The Harvester's automated systems finally understood what was happening, but it was too late. They could not stop the retreat. Amy's Titan burst out of the hull and fired its thrusters. She flew away from the Harvester at maximum speed. 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. The other Titans emerged one by one, their hulls scorched and damaged but functional. They formed up around her and accelerated away. The timer reached 0. Deep inside the Harvester, the Singularity Charge activated. The gravitational field expanded rapidly, crushing everything it touched. The power core destabilized, adding its energy to the chaos. The entire ship began to collapse inward, its structure unable to withstand the forces tearing at it. From the outside, the Harvester seemed to implode. Its 50-kilometer hull crumpled like paper. Secondary explosions erupted along its length. The gravitational distortions from the Singularity Charge reached out and grabbed 3 nearby Devourer warships, pulling them in and crushing them as well. When the Singularity finally collapsed, there was nothing left but expanding debris and radiation. The Harvester and the 3 warships had been completely destroyed. "Scratch 1, Harvester," Amy transmitted. "Omega Squadron is ready for another target." Admiral Ryan Cross allowed himself a small smile. The battle had been raging for 6 hours now. The Devourers were in full retreat. They had lost 30% of their forward fleet. The Council forces, supported by human ships, had suffered minimal additional casualties. The threshold systems were secure. The Emergency Council session began 3 days after the battle at Threshold Systems. Every species representative was present, either in person or through holographic projection. The chamber buzzed with conversation. Everyone wanted to talk about the human fleet and what they had witnessed. Ambassador Laura Bennett stood at the human section, waiting for the session to begin. Beside her, Jake Morrison could feel the tension in the air. The other species were looking at humans differently now. Before, they had seen Earth's representatives as junior members of the Council, a young species still learning about the galaxy. Now there was fear in those looks. High Chancellor Varix called the session to order. "We are here to discuss the Devourer threat and humanity's role in defending the Council. Admiral Ryan Cross of the Human Fleet has requested permission to address us. I grant that permission now." A holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber. Admiral Ryan Cross stood in his military uniform, his expression serious. Behind him, Jake could see the Bridge of the Valor, the massive dreadnought that served as his flagship. "Members of the Council," Ryan began. 3 days ago, we engaged the Devourer forward fleet and achieved victory. However, our intelligence indicates that the main Devourer armada is still approaching. It consists of over 10,000 warships and multiple Harvester platforms. It will arrive at Council space in approximately 2 weeks. Murmurs spread through the chamber. 10,000 ships. The number was terrifying. "The fleet we destroyed at Threshold was only a scouting force," Ryan continued. The main fleet is designed to overwhelm any defense through sheer numbers. The Council's current military strength, even with human support, cannot stop them in a direct battle. Then what do you propose? Asked Varix. Ryan took a breath before answering. We propose the Ragnarok Protocol. It is a plan that will destroy the entire Devourer fleet, but it requires using weapons that humanity has never deployed before. Weapons that the Council does not know we possess. What weapons? Demanded Kor, the Solari representative. His body flared brighter with agitation. Humans have already shown us ships and technology we never knew existed. What else are you hiding? Laura Bennett stepped forward. Before we discuss the Ragnarok Protocol, the Council deserves to know the truth about humanity, the complete truth. She activated her own holographic display. Images appeared showing Earth's history, wars, battles, conflicts that spanned thousands of years. Jake watched as representatives from peaceful species looked at the images with growing horror. My species has been fighting wars since before we had written language, Laura said. We fought each other for resources, for land, for beliefs. By the time we reached the stars, we had refined warfare into an art form. When we made first contact with the Council 100 years ago, we made a choice. We chose to present ourselves as peaceful because we did not want to frighten you. You lied to us, said Varix quietly. We omitted certain truths, Laura corrected. We really do value peace. We really do want to cooperate with other species, but we also understood something that the Council had forgotten. Peace must be defended, and the best defense is overwhelming force held in reserve. Another representative spoke up, a Trell named Oldwood, whose species communicated through subtle changes in the color of their bark. You built a secret military force. While you sat in our council and voted on our laws, you were preparing for war. Yes, Laura said simply. When we learned about the Devourers from the Council's historical archives, we knew they might return someday. We studied every battle the Council ever fought against them. We analyzed every defeat, and we designed our entire military specifically to fight them. Ryan's hologram spoke again. Every weapon we used at Threshold was developed with the Devourers in mind. Our stealth technology counters their sensors. Our shields adapt faster than they can adjust their weapons. Our Titan mechs exploit their vulnerability to internal attacks. We have been preparing for this war for 100 years. And now you want to use even more powerful weapons, Varix said. Explain the Ragnarok Protocol. Ryan's expression grew darker. Over the past century, humanity has secretly deployed 60 satellites throughout Council space. These satellites contain zero-point energy devices. Each device can destabilize a star, causing it to go supernova. The chamber erupted. Species shouted in their various languages. Some representatives stood up in anger. Others made gestures of fear or outrage. Jake felt his own stomach turn. Planet-killer weapons hidden among Council worlds for decades. If the other species had known, they might have declared war on Earth. You placed weapons of mass destruction near our homeworlds, Varix said, his voice shaking. Without our knowledge, without our permission. The devices were never intended for use against Council worlds, Laura said firmly. They were placed strategically to create a trap for the Devourers. The Ragnarok Protocol calls for luring the main Devourer fleet into the Calyx system, a region of unstable stars. Once they are in position, we trigger a supernova cascade. The chain reaction will destroy everything in that system, including the Devourer fleet. You are talking about sacrificing an entire star system, said a Yithron representative named Crystal Song. The Calyx system has no inhabited worlds, but it is still part of Council space. The destruction will be visible for hundreds of light years. Yes, Ryan said. It will send a message to any other hostile force in the galaxy. It will show them what happens to those who threaten the Council. General Steve Parker's hologram appeared beside Ryan's. I understand your shock and anger, But consider the alternative. If we try to fight the Devourers in a conventional battle, we will lose. They have the numbers. They have adapted to council weapons over thousands of years. The only way to guarantee victory is to use a weapon they cannot adapt to. A weapon so powerful that adaptation is impossible. Varix looked around the chamber. The council must vote on this. The decision to use the Ragnarok protocol will change us forever. It will mean accepting that sometimes survival requires terrible choices. The debate lasted for hours. Some species argued that using such weapons was wrong, that it made the council no better than the Devourers. Others pointed out that extinction was worse than moral compromise. In the end, the vote was called. 30 species voted in favor of the Ragnarok protocol. 8 voted against. 4 abstained. The measure passed. Varix looked at Laura Bennett. The council authorizes humanity to execute the Ragnarok protocol. May whatever gods exist forgive us for what we are about to do. After the session ended, Jake followed Laura back to the embassy. His mind was spinning with everything he had learned. "How long have you known about all this?" he asked. "Since I became ambassador 10 years ago," Laura replied. "Every human ambassador has known. It is part of the job. We keep the secret because revealing it would have caused exactly what you saw in that chamber today. Fear, anger, distrust. But now they know," Jake said. "Now they know," Laura agreed. "And nothing will ever be the same. Win or lose, humanity's relationship with the Council has changed forever." On the Valor, Admiral Ryan Cross met with his senior officers to plan the operation. Captain Lisa Martinez from the Wraith Destroyers was there. Ben Hayes from the Liberty attended through holographic link. Colonel Amy Wu joined from the Titan carrier where her squadron was being repaired. "The plan is simple," Ryan explained. "We position the fleet near Calyx system. We make it look like we are defending something valuable. The Devourers will see what appears to be our entire force concentrated in one location. They will attack with everything they have because they will think they can wipe us out in a single battle." "What about the Council fleet?" Ben asked. "They will be with us, making the bait more convincing. When the Devourers commit their forces, we trigger the satellites. The stars in the Calyx system will go supernova in sequence. The blast will consume everything within 20 light minutes of the system's center." "How do we escape?" Amy asked. "Fast," Ryan said. "We will have approximately 2 minutes from the first detonation to clear the danger zone. Any ship that does not make it to the jump point in time will be destroyed." Lisa Martinez studied the star charts. "What about ships damaged in the initial fighting? Ships with disabled engines?" The Calyx system waited in silence. 7 dying stars orbited each other in a slow dance that had lasted billions of years. They were red giants, unstable and old, ready to die at any moment. Around them, the human fleet and the Council forces took their positions. Admiral Ryan Cross stood on the bridge of the Valor, watching the tactical display. 300 human capital ships formed the core of the defense. 5,000 support vessels spread out in a protective shell. The Council had contributed another 400 ships, everything they could spare. Together they formed a force that looked impressive on paper. But Ryan knew the truth. When the Devourers arrived, they would outnumber the defenders 10-1. This was not a battle they could win through conventional fighting. Everything depended on the trap. "All ships report ready," Commander Greg Torres said. "Satellites are armed and standing by. We are in position." "Now we wait," Ryan said. They did not have to wait long. An hour later, sensors detected the incoming Devourer fleet. They emerged from their jump in a massive formation that stretched across space. 10,000 warships, each one a machine of destruction. Behind them came the harvester platforms, ready to consume the Calyx system once the battle was won. "Here they come," Greg said quietly. Ryan opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Cross. You know the plan. Make them think we are fighting for survival. Make them commit everything. And when the signal comes, jump immediately. No heroics, no delays. Get to safety or die trying." 2 million voices acknowledged the command. The Devourers attacked without any communication. They had no interest in negotiation or surrender. They existed only to consume and convert. Their warships accelerated toward the defensive line, weapons charging. "All batteries, open fire," Ryan ordered. The space between the fleets filled with weapons fire. Plasma beams crossed with energy bolts. Missiles and torpedoes created explosions that bloomed like deadly flowers. The human shields held against the initial assault, but the sheer volume of incoming fire was overwhelming. Captain Ben Hayes guided the Liberty through the chaos. His ship rocked from impacts, alarms sounding across the bridge. "Shields at 60%, Nina Foster reported. "We are taking heavy damage." "Keep firing," Ben ordered. "We need to make this look real." Across the battlefield, the same scene played out on hundreds of ships. Crews fought desperately while watching the clock. They had to hold the Devourers in place for 30 more minutes. 30 minutes for Danny Chen to complete his mission. Danny Chen's stealth ship, the Shadow, slipped through the battle undetected. His co-pilot, Kate Morrison, monitored their sensors carefully. The stealth field bent light and energy around them, making them invisible even at close range. "Approaching the command nexus," Kate said. 15 kilometers ahead." The Devourer command nexus was a massive structure at the center of their fleet, a black sphere 5 kilometers in diameter. It coordinated the actions of every Devourer ship through quantum communication links. If it was destroyed or disabled, the entire fleet would lose cohesion. Danny flew the Shadow carefully through the enemy formation. Devourer ships passed within meters of them, completely unaware of their presence. He had been flying stealth missions for 12 years, but this was different. One mistake, one moment of detection, and they would be torn apart instantly. "We're at the Nexus," Danny said. "Beginning docking procedure." The Shadow attached to the Nexus hull using magnetic clamps. Danny put on his suit and checked his equipment. The trigger device was in a sealed case on his back. Kate stayed in the pilot's seat, ready to launch the moment he returned. "Be careful," she said. "Always am," Danny replied, though they both knew it was a lie. He exited through the airlock and began cutting through the Nexus hull with a plasma torch. The Devourers had not designed their ships to defend against infiltration. Why would they? No species had ever been brave enough or crazy enough to board a ship in the middle of a battle. But humans were different. Danny cut through 3 layers of hull before reaching the interior. He floated through dark corridors filled with machinery that pulsed with alien energy. Defense systems detected him immediately. Drones swarmed from hidden ports, their weapons armed. Danny drew his plasma pistol and started firing. The drones exploded in bursts of sparks and metal. He moved quickly through the corridors, following the map that human intelligence had created from captured Devourer technology. The command core was 200 meters deeper into the structure. More drones appeared. Danny threw a grenade, the explosion clearing a path. He pushed forward, his suit taking hits from enemy weapons, but holding together. 100 meters, 50 meters, 20 meters. He reached the command core, a sphere of swirling energy contained in a magnetic field. The trigger device had to be placed directly against the core for it to work. Danny pulled it from his case and activated it. The device began to hum, its systems syncing with the Devourer technology. Alarms blared throughout the Nexus. The Devourers finally understood that something was wrong. Blast doors began closing, trying to trap him inside. Danny ran back through the corridors, jumping over debris and sliding under closing doors. His suit registered multiple impacts as enemy weapons fired at him. He reached the hull breach just as the final door was closing. He threw himself through the gap, his suit scraping against metal. Outside, he grabbed a handhold on the Shadow's hull and hammered on the airlock. Kate opened it immediately and pulled him inside. "Go, go, go!" Danny shouted. Kate fired the engines at full power. The shadow tore away from the Nexus, its stealth field flickering back to life. Behind them, the Devourers had finally detected their presence. Hundreds of weapons turned toward their last known position, but the stealth field was already hiding them. "Device is armed," Danny reported, breathing heavily. "Trigger is active." The message went out through secure channels to the human fleet. Admiral Ryan Cross received it on the Valor. The trap was set. Now came the hard part. "All Council ships, begin retreat," Ryan ordered. "Make it look like we are breaking. Draw them in deeper." The Council vessels started pulling back, some of them trailing atmosphere and debris to make the retreat look desperate. The Devourer fleet pressed forward, sensing victory. They committed more ships to the attack, pulling resources from their rear formations. They wanted to crush the defenders completely. Ryan watched the tactical display. The Devourers were exactly where he needed them. The entire fleet was now within the danger zone around the Calyx system. "Admiral, we are taking heavy casualties," Greg reported. 17 ships destroyed, 42 more are heavily damaged. "Hold position," Ryan said. He needed 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. A Council cruiser exploded on the view screen. Another ship lost all power and began drifting helplessly. The Devourers swarmed around it like predators, tearing it apart. Ryan watched human ships fighting desperately, their crews buying time with their lives. 4 minutes. The Liberty took a direct hit that penetrated the shields. An explosion tore through the engineering section. "We have lost main power," Nina Foster reported to Ben Hayes. "Switching to reserves. We cannot jump." Ben looked at his crew. They knew what that meant. Get as many people to the escape pods as possible. Launch them toward the Council ships. Maybe they can be picked up. 3 minutes. Colonel Amy Wu and her Titan squadron were fighting inside a harvester ship when the retreat order came. "Omega Squadron, pull out now," came the command. But Amy could see on her sensors that 2 of her pilots were pinned down by enemy fire. She made a choice. "Keep going," she transmitted to the other Titans. "I am getting them out." 2 minutes. Admiral Ryan Cross received reports of ships that could not evacuate, damaged vessels, disabled engines, crews trapped in damaged sections. He had to make the hardest decision of his life. "To all ships that cannot reach the jump point, this is Admiral Cross. You have fought with honor. You have bought us the time we needed. The galaxy will remember your sacrifice." He paused, emotion thick in his voice. "Execute Ragnarok. All ships emergency jump. Now." The 60 satellites hidden throughout the Calyx system activated simultaneously. 0-point energy beams lanced out toward the 7 dying stars. The beams struck the stellar cores, destabilizing the delicate balance that held them together. The first star exploded. The shockwave raced outward at the speed of light, carrying unimaginable energy. It struck the second star, triggering another supernova, then the third, the fourth. All 7 stars detonated in a cascade of stellar destruction. The explosion consumed everything. Devourer ships by the thousands were vaporized instantly. The harvester platforms melted like ice in a furnace. The command nexus, with its trigger device still active, ensured that the enemy fleet could not coordinate an escape. The human and Council ships that had made it to the jump point vanished into hyperspace just as the wavefront reached them. Those that had not made it in time simply ceased to exist, their sacrifice ensuring the survival of everyone else. The Shadow, with Danny and Kate aboard, had jumped to safety with seconds to spare. Danny watched through the sensors as the Calyx system became an expanding nebula of superheated gas. "Did we get them all?" he asked quietly. "Sensors detect no surviving Devourer vessels," Kate confirmed. "They are gone. All of them." On the Valor, Admiral Ryan Cross received the same confirmation from his tactical officer. The Devourer threat was eliminated. The cost had been high. 43 human ships lost, 112 council vessels destroyed, over 50,000 personnel dead, including Colonel Amy Wu, who had refused to abandon her pilots and died buying them time to escape. High Chancellor Varix appeared on the communication screen. His face showed exhaustion and relief in equal measure. Admiral Cross, the Council thanks you. Humanity has saved us all. Ryan nodded slowly. At a price, Chancellor. At a terrible price. 3 days later, the human fleet returned to Earth. They were greeted as heroes. But Admiral Ryan Cross felt no joy. He stood in the cemetery where they were burying the dead, watching as flag-draped coffins were lowered into the ground. Colonel Amy Wu's coffin was among them. She had been 43 years old, a veteran of 20 years of service. She had saved 2 lives at the cost of her own. Ambassador Laura Bennett stood beside him. The Council wants to hold a ceremony on Central Station. They want to honor the fallen from all species. Will they remember what humanity showed them? Ryan asked. Will they remember what we are capable of? They will never forget, Laura said. We have proven ourselves to be the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Some species will fear us for it, others will respect us. But none will ever underestimate us again. Ryan looked up at the sky where stars were beginning to appear in the evening light. I spent my whole life preparing for that battle. I thought I understood what war meant, but knowing and experiencing are different things. What will you do now? Laura asked. My duty, Ryan said simply. The Devourers are gone, but the galaxy is still dangerous. Humanity will continue to maintain its fleet. We will continue to stand ready, because that is what we are. That is what we have always been. On Central Station, the Galactic Council met to discuss the future. The emergency was over, but everything had changed. Humanity was no longer a junior member seeking guidance. They were the guardians, the ones with the strength to defend against threats that others could not face. High Chancellor Varix addressed the Assembly. Today, we recognize a truth that has been revealed through fire and blood. Peace is not maintained through hope alone. It requires strength. It requires those willing to make terrible choices for the greater good. Humanity has shown us that they are such a species. The Council voted on new resolutions. Human military advisors would help train Council defense forces. Human technology would be shared, though with limitations. And humanity would have a permanent seat on the Security Council, equal to the most senior species. Jake Morrison sat beside Ambassador Bennett during the vote, watching as the Council formally acknowledged what had become obvious. Humans were different from other species. They had brought their warrior nature to the stars, and while that made them frightening, it also made them invaluable. Is this what we wanted? Jake asked quietly. To be seen as the galaxy's soldiers? Laura considered the question carefully. No, but it is what we are needed to be. Sometimes, you do not get to choose your role. You do the job that others cannot or will not do. Years later, historians would study the Battle of Calix system. They would analyze the tactics, debate the ethics, and honor the dead. But for those who had lived through it, who had fought in that terrible battle, the memory was simpler and more profound. The galaxy had called for help. Humanity had answered. And in doing so, they had revealed their true nature. A species that valued peace but understood war, that hoped for the best but prepared for the worst, that would sacrifice their own to protect others. The Devourers were gone, destroyed by weapons so powerful that they remade stars. But the memory of what humans had done, what they were capable of, would burn just as bright in the galaxy's memory for generations to come. Admiral Ryan Cross retired from active service 3 years after the battle. He spent his remaining years teaching at the Naval Academy, training the next generation of officers. When students asked him about the Battle of Calix, He always told them the same thing. We won because we were willing to do what others could not. We paid the price that victory demanded. And we did it not for glory or power, but because it was necessary. That is what it means to be human among the stars. There was silence. Everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it. Ryan spoke quietly. Ships that cannot evacuate will be left behind. We cannot risk the entire fleet trying to save disabled vessels. Every captain has been briefed on this. Every crew knows the stakes. The officers nodded slowly. It was a harsh reality of warfare. Sometimes sacrifices had to be made. There is one more element, Ryan said. We need someone to plant a final trigger device inside the Devourer command ship. Without that device, we cannot guarantee the trap will catch their entire fleet. They might detect the danger and retreat before we trigger the cascade. Who gets that job? Amy asked. Captain Danny Chen volunteered. He commands the stealth reconnaissance ship Shadow. He and his co-pilot Kate Morrison will infiltrate the Devourer fleet and plant the device directly in their command nexus. That is a suicide mission, Ben said bluntly. Ryan met his eyes. Danny knows. He volunteered anyway. He says someone has to do it, and stealth reconnaissance is what he trained for. The meeting ended shortly after. The officers returned to their ships to prepare. In 2 days, the human fleet and the Council forces would move to Calyx system. In 2 days, they would set the trap that would either save the galaxy or doom them all. Send a message to all ships, Ryan ordered. Excellent work. This is just the beginning. The main Devourer fleet is still coming, and it will be 10 times larger than what we just fought. Captain Ben Hayes received the message on the Liberty's bridge. His crew cheered at their victory, but he remained quiet. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Devourers would not make the same mistakes twice. Next time would be harder. High Chancellor Varick sent a communication directly to Admiral Cross. Admiral, on behalf of the Council, I thank you. You saved us today. I must admit I had no idea humanity possessed such military power. Ryan responded carefully. Chancellor, what you saw today is only part of what we can do. The real question now is whether the Council is ready to see the rest. Because if we are going to defeat the main Devourer fleet, we will need to use weapons that are far more destructive than what you witnessed here. There was a long pause before Varick replied. What kind of weapons? The kind that can destroy stars, Ryan said simply. When Varick read the message, he felt something he had not felt in weeks. Hope. The humans were coming. He did not know what they could bring to the battle, but any help was better than none. What Varick did not know, what none of the Council knew, was that humanity was not bringing a small defense force. They were bringing an armada that had been designed specifically to fight the Devourers. Every weapon had been planned. Every tactic had been developed. Humans had studied every battle the Council ever fought against the Devourers and learned from every mistake. All ships, Admiral Ryan Cross broadcast to the fleet, prepare for jump. Destination, Threshold systems. We are going to war. Show them what we are made of. 2 million voices acknowledged the command. Engines powered up to full capacity. Jump drives activated, tearing holes in space-time. One by one, the ships of the human fleet disappeared from Rally Point Omega, crossing hundreds of light years in an instant. They were heading toward the largest battle the galaxy had seen in 3,000 years. And when they arrived, the Devourers would learn that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. The Council had asked for help. They were about to get more than they ever imagined. Laura Bennett smiled, but there was something cold in that smile. Something that made Jake feel a chill run down his spine. All of them, Chancellor. We are sending all of them. The meeting ended shortly after. As Jake followed Laura Bennett out of the chamber, he could not help but wonder what was about to happen. He had lived on Earth his whole life. He had never seen any massive military fleet. Where were these ships? What had humanity been hiding for the past 100 years? Laura Bennett must have sensed his questions. As they walked back to the embassy, she spoke quietly. Jake, in a few days, the galaxy is going to learn the truth about humanity. We are not what we have pretended to be. What are we? Jake asked. She stopped walking and looked at him directly. We are the species that has been preparing for this war since the day we learned the Devourers existed. We are the species that never forgot how to fight. And now, the Council is about to see what that really means.